Hey there, Andrea Seydel here. I'm also known as the book doula. And I just thought I would walk you through understanding Amazon rankings, bestseller status, hot new releases, basically knowing what you can and you cannot control. The reason I'm going to go through this because so many of my clients ask me about this all the time. And I always feel like I don't explain it well, and then they ask again, and then it's just so I just want to say that if you feel confused about Amazon rankings and bestseller status, I just want to start by saying this clearly, like you're not confused because you're missing something. You're confused because it is confusing. So Amazon does not make rankings easy to understand, and as authors, we don't really always have control over it, but what we can do is know how it works, and then we can know how we can influence if we can in any way that we can. So what makes this even trickier is that bestseller and hot new release status, they really do matter to us as authors, especially in the beginning, because we want that status for credibility. We want to know our book's doing well. We want that representative and social proof. And and so this having this tool, and it makes sense. We want to have that best-selling status. We all want that moment where we can celebrate it and where we can say our book is a bestseller. So this is really important. It's also frustrating at times, and it's kind of like it takes you through the whole gamut of emotions and kind of makes you sometimes obsess a little bit on your rankings. This is totally normal. I do the exact same thing. So my goal here is just to explain Amazon rankings in a way that it as clearly as I can, so that we can know what's happening behind the scenes to some degree, and then so that we don't drive ourselves crazy watching the numbers, wondering why they are what they are. So let's walk through this together. So the first thing that I want to do probably is just share a screen with you and show you where to even find your rankings. So this is one of my books. And so we're going to talk about how you're going to have rankings for different types of books because technically they're considered a different product. So your Kindle has a different ISBN number than your paperback has a different ISBN number than your hardcover and your Audible. So everything will have a different ISBN number. So technically, you have an option, you have the opportunity to be ranked in each one of those types of products. And so here we click on paperback, and then where you find your ranking actually is if you notice you have to scroll all the way down, and then you'll see product details. And so down here, so right now I'm number 94 in this book came out 4 years ago. So that's still pretty good. If you're in the top 100s, it's awesome. But if you notice here, sex addiction, just so you know, my book is not about sex addiction. And so I'm gonna explain the categories in a second too, and how Amazon makes their own categories for you. And so, yeah, so you'll notice, and then that's where your author platform is, and they can see about the author. That's where you set this up, the about the author in your author central page. And I have another tutorial on that. So make sure you've set up your author central page so that people can see you as the author associated with your book. And so that's how you find it. And this is overall rankings. And so that's where you find that. I also want to say, and then if you want to know your Kindle ranking, then you do the same thing. You scroll down all the way down, and then you find your Kindle ranking. So I'm 768 in alcohol recovery ebooks. So see how there's different. So there's many opportunities to be ranking, and it depends on which book category you're picking. So make sure you check them all. I know in the beginning when you do a pre-order, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but in the beginning when you do a pre-order for your Kindle book, you're going to have higher rankings in that category as well. So let me just stop share for a second. And I just want to explain where you find it. So basically, it doesn't make it obvious. It doesn't make your rankings obvious. So to find them, you just scroll down and go to the product details, and you'll see that. I think I should also share with you another one of my clients is just publishing a book right now, and so it's only available on pre-order. And she's already ranking. This is a collective by the amazing Amelia Zhivoteskit and the CAP Collective. So it's a whole bunch of her students that have contributed to these amazing books. And so she right now has a pre-order set up because her book is coming out March 10th. But it's amazing because she's already ranking number 2 in positive psychology. And so people are pre-ordering it. So it's driving the algorithm up. And so her book is number 2 in positive psychology. So let me tell you this though. So look what happens. Look how hard I have to search to find. If you scroll down, look at she's number 2. But if you scroll down a little further, do you see this here? Hot new release or new release. And she's in that. So I'm going to click on that. And then you scroll down and you can see it. She's also number 2 in hot new release. So, and she is a hot new release. So when you click on the hot new release, you can see it. And so so you can see how it's kind of like hard to find, and it's not so easy. And her second book is also in the top 4. So that is incredible and amazing. But let's talk about that. How does that happen? How do we get into that bestseller category? How does it all work? So why your book is ranking in multiple categories or has multiple rankings, it seems it's like one of the biggest confusions. So you're not ranking all on top of Amazon. Like it's like you're ranking in Amazon. Like there's millions of books. So you wouldn't necessarily come in the top. You're ranking in a category. So your book does not have one overall ranking. So because we have multiple types of your book, multiple products, each format of your book has its own ranking. Paperback has its own ranking. Kindle will have its own ranking. Hardcover will have its own ranking as well. It happens because each format has its own ISBN number, its own product number, and Amazon treats it like each format is a separate product. So there's no combined ranking for all formats. This is just how Amazon is built. So we want to understand categories. Like, for example, why did I have sex addiction on my book? My book is about loving someone with an addiction and struggling, like it's about the person that loves someone. So I have key words in there and I selected my key categories, but then Amazon gives me all these random other categories. So let's talk about understanding categories and why Amazon adds random ones. So when you publish your book, you do select categories that are best suited for your book. This allows Amazon you kind of guide Amazon. This is what this book is about. But often you'll notice that Amazon will place your book in additional categories that you didn't choose. We don't have control over this. Amazon assigns categories based on your keywords, based on the reader's behavior. So who has bought in your book and what other books they're looking at, buying patterns, algorithmic associations. So Amazon's goal is to sell more books. So it's constantly adjusting where your book appears, where it's visible. So the most important thing to remember here is that you can guide Amazon with your categories, but you can't control it. Amazon is going to do that for you. So the other thing we want to talk about is bestseller status. What does this really mean? So when people talk about bestseller status, they're really always talking about referring to category specific bestseller status. But we're not going to say that because it's long. But bestseller really refers to your category specific bestseller status. Now remember, Amazon makes a whole bunch of categories that you might be in too. So you might come into other categories and be a bestseller in other categories that you didn't even know that you would be in. And the Power of Play book that we published is in a bestseller in depression, and we didn't even select that category. So you can see how to keep an eye on it because you might be surprised about these bestseller categories that you'll get into. So the idea is that you're not becoming a bestseller across all of Amazon. You are becoming a bestseller within a category, and that category might change. That's the bottom line. So the good news is that it does not take a massive amount of sales to tip the algorithm. It doesn't take a massive amount of sales. it could be, because rankings are updated so frequently, like hour to hour, day to day, based on your sales, you can be a bestseller one day and then not the next day. It changes that fast. That's why I always say to my clients, like if you see bestseller or you see hot new release or you see it, take a screenshot, capture the moment, savor it, celebrate. Because it could change in the next day, right? Because you might be the bestseller for that hour. You might be the bestseller for that day. You might be the bestseller for that week, but you may not be. It changes. So someone else's sales can move up and down as well, and your sales can move you up and down as well. So rankings, they naturally fluctuate. This is normal. It changes based on sales, based on who else is selling well on the same day as you, that kind of thing. So, okay, let's talk about hot new release and how it works. So, hot new release status is also algorithm driven. So it's tied mostly to your format. So, if you're selling a huge influx of your Kindle version of your book, then you're going to drive your book sales up and you're going to be a hot new release. You could be hot new release if you sell a whole bunch of paperbacks on the one day on your launch day, for example. Or suddenly you have a new release of a hardcover book and then you sell a whole bunch of those hardcovers. Then on that day, you could be hot new release then. So it depends on launch timing. It depends on, the hot new release can even happen within a month of your book, right? Sometimes they consider hot new releases of something that's just been released a month ago, and then it just drives it. Or like you say, maybe you put out your hardcover copy 2 months later, that's considered for that product, that category, a hot new release. So you can see sometimes hot new release is not obvious on your page. You got to scroll down, look for it. Like sometimes I stumble on it. I'm like, oh my God, hot new release. And so you got to keep an eye on it. You got to scroll down and look at these categories and look at all your categories. So look at your Kindle, look at your paperback, look at your hardcover. And again, it's hard to find. This isn't anything you're doing wrong. It just simply is. It's how Amazon displays this information. Okay, let's talk about pre-orders and why Kindle is the only option. So Amazon only allows Kindles for pre-order. That's your digital version of your book. This is Amazon's limitation. It's not a publishing choice. It's a limitation because the reason we use Kindle pre-orders is a really good strategy because what we can do is collect orders for that launch day. And all those pre-orders will count towards that day that your book is being launched. So it really does have an influx and it helps trigger the algorithm for your book. And so your digital book. And this creates an influx of sales as well. So pre-orders are it's not necessarily instant rankings, but it really is great for momentum. Chances are you're probably suddenly having a launch day on that day too. So people are going to be buying your paperback as well. So you're going to have an influx on your launch day or in and around your launch day. Even if you do a soft launch, which we always do kind of to get it out and propagate into the world, you're going to have that necessary influx that is going to really that influx will trigger the algorithm, and chances are you will move up and you will have book sales on that day. Chances of really prompting that bestseller status or a hot new release. And so that's why we do the Kindle pre-order, so that we can build that momentum. So the other thing is a note about paperback pre-order. So you might have seen online that, hey, then how come that person has a pre-order? Or you might hear someone say, come to my website and like you can pre-order your paperback here too. So you may occasionally see authors or companies advertising paperbacks or hardcovers as pre-orders, but that's where this understanding gets confusing. Amazon does not officially allow support of paperback or hardcover pre-orders. So when you see them, it usually means that payments are being collected outside of Amazon by maybe the author, by a website, the author or the publisher or the fulfillment company are going to ship those books to them later. So these sales can be great for obviously launch excitement or bonuses or signed copies, audience engagement, that kind of thing. But they do not count towards Amazon rankings. That's very important to know. If you're bulk ordering your book, even in cases where companies bulk order books, and then they provide the inventory to Amazon. Rankings only move when customers purchase the book directly from through Amazon. Bulk orders themselves do not trigger these rankings. So that's why Kindle pre-orders remain to be the cleanest and the most reliable pre-order strategy within Amazon right now. Okay, so launch day, algorithms, and what helps. What do we have control over? Because there's so many things that we don't really have control over. We can't control our rankings, but we do understand what influences our rankings. And so over the years, these are things that have helped increase visibility as well as rankings to help with, the movement, to help with the moving you up into a higher ranking. So things, like that we do our launch parties or like make sure your friends and family are buying them all around the same time, or, you have interviews. I've done a podcast appearance actually where it was in the top 1% of podcasts. And just from being on that podcast, I saw a spike in my sales. And then sure enough, 3 days later, I was a bestseller. I was number one bestseller in multiple categories. So you can see like how we can doing launch days or like building up like exposure, maybe podcast tours or author features and promotions. These all work, and they can help with the algorithm. So sometimes sales don't spike immediately, so you got to remember it doesn't show up right away. So obviously visibility comes first, and then the sales will follow, and then the rankings will move up as you watch it on your Amazon. So that's how the algorithms generally work. That's why we want to build hype around your launch date of your book. Or like for me, that book has been out forever, and I went on a podcast, and then suddenly it boosted me back up into that top category. So, all right. So what does not count towards rankings? Just remember, buying author copies does not count towards author rankings. Bulk orders placed as the author does not count towards rankings. Books sold privately or shipped independently are not counted towards your rankings. Amazon rankings track customer purchases directly through Amazon. Bottom line. So Amazon rankings track customer purchases, and they need to be made directly through Amazon. So yeah, rankings matter. They matter to us, right? But they shouldn't run the show, the entire show. Rankings matter because they present social proof, credibility, visibility, and the momentum, right? And usually they mean that you're selling your book. So high rankings just signal that your book is being purchased, and that's so great. That's what we all want. And so that said, rankings can go up and down, So I always say try to stay in the top 100, because then the visibility of your book is good and more people will see it, then more people will buy it and you'll stay in that. But I have to say, staying in that top 100 is excellent. If you're, obsessing over ranking can be so draining. And just make sure when you capture it, the bottom line is when you capture that bestseller status, make sure you celebrate, make sure you take a picture. There's no secret loophole that guarantees bestseller status. And that's why you can't always promise it, but you can say it's very likely that you will at some point get into that bestseller status or that hot new release status for certain categories. Categories that may not be the ones you select, but you will get into categories and you will, drive the status up. So we use pre-orders, we use launch parties and interviews and promotions and visibility strategies to increase the chance of bestseller or hot new release status. And Amazon ultimately decides the categories and the rankings, and those rankings will fluctuate. So that's the bottom line. So if your book hits bestseller status even once, You are a best-selling author. You can use that language. You can celebrate it. You can share it. So I really do emphasize capture that moment, appreciate it, and keep going because rankings matter, but your message that's getting out to the world matters even more.